And go. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Outsiders Fantasy Podcast. Tonight we are breaking down the Monday Night Football, and I don't know if it's the first time ever, but at least the first time since I can remember, Tuesday Night Football. We'll kind of lump them all into one topic tonight. So yeah, let's get started for these games to start. First up, we got the Chargers versus the Saints. This is going to be this has the potential to be a very interesting, a very entertaining Monday night game. And I know when you guys watch primetime Monday night, you like to see fireworks, you like to see passes, you like to see touchdowns. And I think this has the makeup for all of that, which is good for all fantasy owners involved usually. So as of last week, Drew Brees has started to find some rapport with his makeshift wide receiver core since Michael Thomas is out and still is continuing to be out. Might come back next week, but he's starting to show that he can connect with the guys that are on the field with Emmanuel Sanders and Traquan Smith. Last week, he posted 246 yards through the air and 2 touchdowns against the Lions. Most specifically, it seems to be really developing between him and Emmanuel Sanders. He targeted him 9 times for 6 receptions and 93 yards. For those of you in a standard league, obviously targets matter because the more targets across the board, the more targets, the more chances for receptions, the more chances for yardage. But for PPR players, targets are even more important because that shows the potential of points that your receivers could be getting just off of those throws alone. So the fact that he's throwing to him, especially last week, 9 times for 93 yards, that was a potential of 18 points just alone. But he ended up finishing the night with 15 points. So that's a really good sign, showing that he's starting to trust his receivers, get to know them, and getting comfortable with their speed and how they run their routes. So AK last week saw an uptrend in carries as well. Instead of just being heavily involved in the passing game, he did have 19 touches for 83 yards and a touchdown. Which tells me because he was involved heavily in the passing game the previous weeks. So with the increase in targets for Emmanuel Sanders and Traquan Smith, the uptrend in carries with Alvin Kamara, it seems like the Saints are starting to become more balanced again, like they tried to be at the beginning of the year. They're starting to find their footing in the passing game. And Alvin Kamara was kind of that buffer in between that period where they were finding themselves out. Now that they feel comfortable with that, it seems they're going to start leaning more on the running backs to be running backs like they tried to start off. What's up, Dylan? To be what they wanted them to be in the beginning of the year. And as we see, Alvin Kamara gets almost 100 yards and a touchdown, and Latavius Murray had 64 yards and 2 touchdowns. So they're starting to balance that back out again. And we all know when the Saints are balanced and you can't tell what they're going to do, they're a pretty dangerous team, especially off the play action. Drew Brees is just a magician for sure. And I think the Chargers defense allows them this week to keep that balance after giving up 111 yards and 5.6 yards per carry to Ronald Jones last week, as well as 369 yards passing and 5 touchdowns to Tommy Titles. For those of you that don't know who Tommy Titles, that's Tom Brady. That's what I affectionately call him. So I'm thinking that the defense for the Chargers, they probably feel a bit vulnerable and aggressive. Defenses, when they get burned like that on all phases, they kind of come in the next week with a chip on their shoulder, especially with the Chargers head coach, Anthony Lynn. He is a defensive-minded, tough dude, and he doesn't like to get shown up like that. So I expect them to come out aggressive. And in response to that, I expect the Saints to try their hand early running the ball in order to get the Chargers into this false sense of aggression where they're always trying to attack the line of scrimmage, and then look for Drew Brees to get a couple of play actions to capitalize on that aggression. Also, a notable mention that feeds into why I suspect the Chargers to be a little bit more over aggressive this week. They had 0 sacks this week. So I think that really struck a nerve with them, especially Joey Bosa, who definitely got drafted for that specifically and prides himself in his sacks. I think they try to dial it up a notch.
Yeah, he actually has 3 of the 6 sacks they have this year, so, and 17 pressures. So
yeah, and for them to not get any last week, I'm sure definitely hurt him probably the most out of everyone. So.
yeah.
So now on to the flip side of the ball for the Chargers. A notable mention for the Saints defense in reference to the Chargers offense. Janoris Jenkins is out. He's a cornerback for the Saints. If you know him, Jackrabbit Jenkins, he plays for the Giants. He's a very solid cornerback. One of those anchors to that secondary. He's out tonight. That bodes well for Justin Herbert and this renaissance of Chargers passing game that they have found. Justin Herbert continues to show why he's one of the rookies worthy enough to lead an offense and to even be startable in fantasy. I know I have him on one of my teams, him and Keenan Allen. I stack them, and they have not proved me wrong yet. Last week, he nearly topped 300 yards again for the third straight game. He barely missed the mark. Joe Burrow got that award for the quarterback to throw for 300 yards in his first 3 outings. He got that rookie record. So Justin Herbert fell a little bit short, but he's still a really, really good quarterback. And not only did he get almost 300, I think it was like 288. Not only did he get almost 300 yards, but he also got 3 touchdowns and ended the day with 137.9 passer rating, which is phenomenal. The most telling stat, though, is that he averaged almost 12 yards per pass downfield, which says, and I've said this before, he isn't afraid to let the ball rip downfield. He's got a very solid grasp of that offense. They did a really good job with getting him in there slowly. I know they tried to start Tyrod at first, and Tyrod ended up getting hurt, and they kind of just had to throw Justin Herbert to the fire. But I think just even that little bit of pause that they had putting him in definitely helped him out. And he also obviously has a very good chemistry with the people that he's throwing to. Him and Keenan Allen have just it's almost like they've been playing together for years. It's almost like Phillip Rivers never left. He just quit throwing interceptions, to be honest. So, and speaking of Keenan Allen, he's still having his eye-popping targets every week, which, again, it's good for any format, but especially in PPR because those are potential points that you could have each time. Last week he did have 12 targets. Only 8 receptions. Well, I say only, but because it's Keenan Allen, the 8 receptions is a little low. But he does have his 12 targets like usual. So he did have 62 yards, but when you're getting 8 receptions, 62 yards, 14 points, that's not that bad. Granted, we'd like to see him have at least a touchdown in there or something like that because he is a big name marquee player. But if that's going to be a low day for him, I'll take it. So on the flip side, New Orleans hasn't been great against the pass, allowing 104.6 passer rating to QBs this year. And so far gave up 3 passing touchdowns to the Lions last week. They did hold Stafford to only 206 yards, and a light 6.6 yards per attempt. But I don't see that being the case with this Chargers passing attack. The Lions have yet to.
Pickett Rivers, that's pretty good.
Old man Rivers, yeah, it's rough. One thing the Saints defense has been pretty decent at this year is against the run. They've only allowed 3.6 yards per carry and under 100 yards on the ground so far this year, or yards per game, I should say, on the ground this season.
To add to that, it's been by committee. It's been 46 consecutive games that the Saints haven't had a 100-yard rusher against them.
Really? I did not know that. So, yeah, that doesn't make it any easier that Austin Eckler got put on IR with his leg injury last week. So, however, I'm going to call a flyer, and y'all don't blame me if it doesn't work out. Like I said, it is a flyer. But I, for some reason, have a gut feeling that we see Joshua Kelly make his triumphant return, but his triumphant what's the word? Just his coming out party, like I usually say. I feel like this is his moment as far as how the Chargers use the running back position, at least the way they use Austin Eckler. I feel like Joshua Kelly fits into that mold, or at least he can, pretty easy. Austin Eckler is a heck of a player, heck of a versatile player in the passing game and the running game, and I think Joshua Kelly can provide that 1-2 dynamic that Eckler has provided for their offense. So I wouldn't sleep on him necessarily. I would probably do a stash of Joshua Kelly just to see how he does this week, because if he blows up against the Saints, he's probably going to be gone come Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever your waivers reset or whatever, depending on how this Titans game situation gets taken into on y'all's fantasy app. So I'm just calling it. It's a flyer, I know, but I just have a gut feeling Joshua Kelly's going to be the one that, I granted Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen are going to have their day, but I think Joshua Kelly is going to be the one that steals the show tonight as far as someone that we didn't think was going to do much ends up being a little bit impressive tonight. So, Drew, do you got anything to add before I give them the predictions of the points?
For Drew Brees, pretty much everybody knows that's where he started at, was with the Chargers. He's played for the Saints for 15 years now. His career ended with the Chargers off of a pretty bad shoulder injury, dislocated it, tore his labrum with a 360-degree tear. His rotator cuff was 50% torn. On top of everything, that was week 17 in a meaningless game against the Broncos. They weren't making the playoffs. His contract was ending. The Chargers chose not to bring him back because they had just drafted Phillip Rivers. And it was a decision that Drew Brees, he's not much of an outspoken guy, but at that time, I guess in that moment, it was a decision that Drew Brees called the worst bleeping mistake that the Chargers will ever make. And I think he's made them pay over the years for sure. He's an all-time leading passer in NFL history with yards and touchdowns. He got a Super Bowl ring. Phillip Rivers, he ain't even got to see what one looks like. So, he's definitely made them pay over the years, and he's 3-0 all time against the Chargers, as going back and facing them with 916 yards, 9 touchdowns, and almost a 70% completion percentage against them. So he makes them pay every time he plays them. So I don't look for it to be any different tonight. I'm taking the Saints for sure.
Yeah, I know we usually don't pick like winners or anything, but since you put some skin in the game, I'm gonna go with the Chargers. I think I'm a big Justin Herbert fan. Mike Williams might be playing. And Justin Herbert's already developing this rapport with Keenan Allen. Just wait until Mike Williams gets healthy and gets out there with his 6'6" ass, doing jump balls in the end zone. So I think the rookie Herbert and the Chargers shock the Saints and Drew Brees for once. I do think it's a close game. I'm not a score picker, so don't base your betting on me. But I like the Chargers to shock shock.
Herbert was 6 years old the last time Drew Brees played this for the Chargers, so it's pretty cool stat. Kind of
like who's Justin Herbert played in his first 3 games? He's played Tom Brady, he's played Drew Brees, and who else did he play?
They played the Panthers, right? Was it Panthers?
No. Man, I'm dumb. Sorry, guys. Brain fart. He played like 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks in his first 3 starts, so it's been a while for him.
I think the key for Herbert tonight, I think they need to get him comfortable early with some high percentage throws, get those nerves out of the way. His first primetime game, Monday Night Football. I almost said Tuesday night because we got so many nights of football now. But you need to get him some confidence early. Get him in a rhythm. Some short throws, high percentage throws. Get him going.
And Joshua Kelly and Keenan Allen coming in. I mean, Keenan Allen gets all the targets anyway. I see him doing a lot of nice short to intermediate routes for him. Josh Kelly coming out of the backfield like Eckler does. Can't win the ring. And then Hunter Henry, of course, finding those soft spots in the zone, just sitting down in there. So projection. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Speaking of Hunter Henry. That's one guy I think will be a key in the game tonight. The Saints have gotten torched every game by tight ends, especially against the Raiders that on Monday night, I think it was.
Darren Waller, though. I mean, I like Hunter, but he's not Darren Waller.
No, he's not Darren Waller, but, I mean, they've struggled against every tight end they faced so far. So I look for him to be key in that too.
All right, so for projections, I actually got the quarterbacks pretty close together. So for the Saints, Drew Brees, I got him at 17. Justin Herbert, I got him at 18. So for the rest of the Saints, Alvin Kamara, I got at 22 in PPR, 19 in standard. Latavius Murray, 11 in PPR, 10 in standard. Traquan Smith, I got at 13 in PPR, 10 in standard. Manuel Sanders, 14 PPR, 11 in standard. And Jared Cook, 10 in PPR, 8 in standard. For the Chargers, like I said, Justin Herbert at 18. Josh Kelly, I got him at 13 in PPR, 10 in standard. Justin Jackson's probably going to spell in some. I got him at 8 in PPR, 7 in standard. Keenan Allen, 17 in PPR. 12 in standard because of his high catch rate. Mike Williams, he is questionable. So if he does play, though, I do got him at 12 in PPR, 10 in standard, and Hunter Henry at 13 in PPR, 10 in standard. And like I said yesterday on our show, Hunter Henry was one of my top 5 picks for tight ends this week. So I expect him to have a pretty decent game for those of you that own him. Okay, so on to my personal favorite. Hallelujah. It is football time in Tennessee again. The Titans, one of the few unbeaten teams, unconquered, unchallenged, in my opinion, teams in the NFL, are coming back to television this week against the Buffalo Bills. However, I do wish it was under better circumstances. The Titans are playing, like I've always said, week in, week out, Russell Wilson's my pick for MVP, but if he doesn't get it, Josh Allen's definitely a close second for MVP this year for the NFL. Unfortunately, Dak's out of the running. Prayers up to Dak for that horrific injury. Nobody deserves to go through something like that. But right now, it's a close race between, not that close, but it's almost neck and neck between Josh Allen and Russell Wilson. But Josh Allen is again looking like a name on a very short list for MVP. Again, with another 300-yard, 2-touchdown passing day last week, as well as, again, finding the end zone with his legs. He's just, in my opinion, a more dangerous version of Lamar Jackson in a different way. Lamar's dangerous with his legs, but he can beat you passing. Josh Allen's dangerous with his arm, but can beat you with his legs. In my opinion, that's probably a little bit more dangerous of a combination than a running quarterback that can burn. Because usually with these strong arm throwing first quarterbacks that are so athletic they can run, as in Aaron Rodgers, you see that you have to respect that pass first, and that allows those running lanes to open up more versus the other way around. The passing lanes aren't as open because the DBs play a little bit more shallow, which does allow you to sometimes get over the top, but you're not always going to do that because you're looking for either your tight ends or for a running lane. So
Yeah, even Pat Mahomes and even Russell Wilson. I mean, they make a living at it.
Yeah, they run to throw. They don't throw to run. You know what I'm saying? So on the year, Josh Allen has thrown for 12 touchdowns on only one pick. He's averaging 331 and a half yards per game and 122.7 passer rating, as well as completing over 70% of his passes. So not only is he throwing high volume, but he's throwing high accuracy as well. One of his favorite targets, obviously, Stephon Diggs, continues to show great promise with Josh Allen and giving that offense its swagger and its attitude that it's been missing out on. And last week he hauled in 6 receptions on 7 targets, so high percentage catches for 115 yards last week. Unfortunately, where the Bills have struggled was in the running game last week. Devin Singletary only had 55 yards on 3.1 yards per carry and 18 rushes. But fortunately, they have a shot to get the running game trending upward by facing and it hurts me to say, an atrocious Titans run defense that ranks 32nd in the NFL. They're allowing 5.8 yards per carry this season at 166 yards per game. I don't know how. I do like their linebackers. Jeffrey Simmons in the middle at defensive tackle is an absolute beast. Kevin Byard's a great safety, very smart, can play the run and the pass. So I don't Jadeveon Clowney has even been contributing pretty decently against the run. The way he sheds blockers is just, he looks like a monster. So I don't know. Maybe they're just still working on gelling and trying to get together because Jadeveon didn't come over till very, very late, right before the season. So maybe this time off that they had might be a blessing in disguise to get them to gel and get to know each other a little bit better, learn the playbook a little bit better for Clowney.
Clowney, I think he's going to be big in tonight's game. I read that the 2 starting defensive tackles for y'all are out tonight. So, or tomorrow night. Sorry. So he's going to have to play all the spots on the line for y'all, pretty much. He's going to have to establish the pass rush for sure.
Well, if anybody can do it, it's him. One thing I said about Clowney, even before the Titans got him, whenever he got drafted, he's not the guy that's going to give you – he's got the potential to give you those high double-digit sack seasons every single year, but Clowney is more of even his time in Maryland, if you watched him the brief time that he did play, he's just more of a playmaker than a consistent force. Whenever you need something, a big stop, a big turnover, a fumble, an interception, or a sack, a tackle for a loss, whatever it may be, he's shown in Houston, he's shown in Seattle last year. And there's been a couple of times for the Titans this year where he's shown that he reminds me almost of how Troy Polamalu plays, played. I'm not saying Clowney's a Hall of Famer or anything like that, but they play similar as far as they'll be quiet or you won't hear a lot from them for half the game or something like that. But when something's on the line and something needs to happen to change the course of it, more often than not, they're going to be on the giving end of that hit or something like that to get that, knock the ball loose or jump in the way of a defender for that interception or shed the block or shoot the gap just to get that tackle for a loss or a sack that was desperately needed. So,
yeah, he's a guy that he can wreak havoc at any time, any level, any level of the play in the backfield at the line. I've seen him chase people down. So he's just the guy that he has a high motor. He's just all over the field.
Yeah,
and I think me and you talked before. I think he can, in the right situation. I think he could be the next freak, Javon Curse type player for y'all.
Yeah. He just got to be more consistent, and he's got to want to be more consistent. And he does definitely plays off. So, and so for the flip side, for the Titans, as usual, it's all about Derrick Henry, King Henry. Probably even a little more so this week, being that Corey Davis is out with COVID symptoms. So far, Derrick Henry is still first in the NFL in rushing yards per game with 106 yards per game, even though his yards per carry has dropped to only 3.9. That just shows that just shows how much of this offense goes through him. And granted, A.J. Brown got hurt as well, so it's kind of the same formula. When they have both receivers, A.J. Brown and Corey Davis out there, Derrick Henry's yards per carries tend to go up because they use him a little bit less, even though he still is the focal point of the offense. But if one of the main receiving targets go down, they definitely lean on DH a whole lot. The Bills' defense, however, they did hold a very good Josh Jacobs last week to only 3.2 yards per carry on 48 yards. But that's not indicative to what they've done this entire year. Still on the year, they allow over 100 yards per game and 4.4 yards per carry. So I see the Bills' defense really getting tested this week, and Derrick Henry getting the ball no less than 20 times unless Josh Allen just absolutely rips us apart through the air and we have to just play catch up. I see us trying to stay on top of Josh Allen as far as running, just like we talked about with Patrick Mahomes, keeping him off the field by staying on top of Derrick Henry. A lot of running, a lot of pounding, trying to really wear down that defense.
Wear them down, sustain those long drives, those clock draining drives.
Exactly,
he can't throw touchdowns from the bench. So
yeah, and even setting up those high percentage throws off of play action if the running game does get going, or at least going enough to where the Bills feel threatened by it to take the bait on those play action plays.
The play action for the Titans is bread and butter. It's works for them quite a bit.
Which leads us into the passing game, something where the Bills have probably struggled most this year on defense is stopping the pass. For the 2020 season, they have allowed about 280 yards per game through the air and a 99 passer rating, which isn't super great. Like, it's not phenomenal, but it's not like it's a pretty good passer rating. It's almost 100. So I mean, it's quarterbacks have had a lot of success with them. And they've been involved in a few shootouts over the year. this year. So most notably giving up 300 yards to Derek Carr when they couldn't get Josh Jacobs going. So even when they made the Raiders one-dimensional and they knew what they were doing, they still couldn't stop Derek Carr, Darren Waller, Henry Ruggs, and Renfro from getting 300 yards against them. So I don't see them having a walk in the park this week either with their passing defense by facing Ryan Tannehill. Even though they are missing Corey Davis, there have been a couple of receivers to step up this during AJ Brown's absence. So they're very comfortable in playing in this type of situation now. Just the roles are reversed. Instead of them filling in for AJ Brown, they're filling in for Corey Davis. So Ryan Tannehill, I know they didn't play last week. So in the 3 games that the Titans have played, Ryan Tannehill's thrown 6 touchdowns, and he's averaged about 270 yards per game and has 105.8 passer rating with about 8 yards per attempt on the pass. So he does like to throw down the field a little bit more. And I think and that's with AJ being gone. Now that AJ's back, I see that yards per attempt increasing probably even a little bit more just because of the speed that AJ Brown brings. So.
Yeah, I think the play action helps that out a lot because with the threat of Henry in the backfield, the play action draws those safeties and corners down, so he gets to throw it over top a little more. So,
yeah, and Khalif Raymond is a speed demon as well. He's a little quick sucker. So, with him and AJ Brown on the field, I definitely see those yards per attempt probably increasing just at least in this game. So, an X factor to this game. The things that might make a difference in this game, obviously, is AJ Brown making his return, but on the flip side, Corey Davis is not going to be available. That changes the passing dynamic a little bit, makes it a little bit quicker of a passing philosophy, maybe a deeper passing philosophy as well. Also, another thing that I could see playing a factor is maybe a little bit of rust going into it because the Titans supposedly, I mean, I don't know what the pictures look like. Everyone's pleading the fifth. The jury couldn't find enough evidence to say that it was the Titans practicing at a high school, but we're just going to assume that they haven't done anything football related to a significant degree in about a week and a half. So
that was supposedly at Montgomery Bell Academy here in Nashville.
Yeah. So we will see how much of that is true by how they play, I guess. It's really hard for a team to start off hot when you haven't been practicing in a week and a half. So we'll just kind of see what's going to go on. It might be a little shaky in the beginning for the Titans to find that rhythm and that groove. They have had they're probably going to squeeze as much practice time, at least throwing time in as possible before the game tomorrow. So we'll see if they can get that going and shake the ring rust off, so to speak.
I think like we talked about with Herbert, get Tannehill in a rhythm early, some high percentage stuff, like establish some kind of rhythm, and get the run going early on and often.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely what they're going to have to do.
I see Henry getting at least 25 to 30 carries. I really do.
Yeah, I was going to say like 20, 25. It depends. Again, it depends on they're playing Josh Allen. So it depends on if they can prevent Josh Allen from getting up on them. As long as they can do that, then, yeah, I see Derrick Henry getting 20, 25 carries. But if Josh Allen starts to get hot and Stephon Diggs starts to get hot, I'll probably see Derrick stop about 18 because they're going to have to start passing the ball.
Yeah.
But they do definitely still have, even with Corey Davis out, they have the talent to definitely challenge that Bills defense with Tre'Davious White being questionable. Even though he's questionable, he's definitely going to play, obviously. But being questionable means that there's something there that's not 100%. So that favors even more for the Titans that way. So yeah, you got anything else to add, Drew, before I give them the points prediction?
More of a question. What's the odds that we see the Music City Miracle again?
0.
Yeah, I don't think you could ever repeat that, man. That was the craziest play I think I've ever watched.
Well, I see it happening again at some point. I mean, I wouldn't doubt like Mike Vrabel if we get to the playoffs or something like that. I could see him trying to pull out something like that, but I don't see it happening in this game. There's no way. I'm sure just about every team has a Music City Miracle type of play similar to that in their playbook, but nobody's going to run it week 5 of the NFL to show.
I remember when that happened, man. It was me and my dad and my little brother. We were just sitting there. I think we just actually came in from church maybe, and it kind of caught the end of the game, and when that happened, we were all just like floored, like what just happened? That was just insane. And
yeah,
this was before the challenges really got like the way they are now, like more in depth. So they didn't really just say one way or the other whether it was really a forward pass or not. They just kind of left it as it was. So
yeah. Coincidentally, that was my first Titans game that I ever saw when I was a kid, and that's when I became a Titans fan. So, and I got a rude awakening a few years after that for about a good 15 years.
Well,
so,
trust me, I've been struggling for about 20 now, 20 something.
I hear you. And it's going to be another year struggling for you.
Man, yeah. Like you said earlier, prayers up for Dak, man. It's heartbreaking to see anybody get injured, but just that gruesome of an injury, it's just
especially in that situation too, being franchise tagged. So now he's lost any leverage that he gained this year from throwing 400 to 500 yards a game. He's effectively lost now. So I know he wants to remain in Dallas, but I think Jerry's definitely got that to hold over his head as far as another reason why not to pay him. But I don't doubt in my mind that there's not a team out there in the NFL that will pay Dak what he was wanting before. So where I would love to see him come back as a Cowboy, and I think he's going to have to take less to do it than what he was wanting. But he could also get that type of money anywhere. Like I know of a Jets team and a Giants team that would, love to have Dak Prescott.
Probably even the Washington football team would probably take him right now.
You wouldn't want to face Dak twice a year. So.
Definitely not. And I did see a report or a statement that Jerry made saying that he has no doubt in his mind that Dak will return to the leadership capability that he knows he has and will be a Cowboy. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, it's up to Jerry and what he's going to pay him. So
yeah. And
all right,
man, he's just sorry to cut you off, but yeah, Dak's been through so much in his life, much less this past year. Losing his brother and all this contract stuff going on, and then this happens. You just hate to see it happen to that kind of guy.
Yeah, well, he can take solace in knowing he made like $25 million for just 1 year. So, and aren't those franchise tags guaranteed, right?
That's what I was wondering too. I did hear some people talking about that yesterday, and it was actually $38 million this year that he was supposed to make. So
I thought that was the next one. Anyway,
so I don't know if it's guaranteed or not. So
What's a
we'll
few
see.
13 million?
But at least he does have a deal with Sleep Number, so he's gonna be comfortable while he's off anyway.
There you go. All right, so for my projections on the Titans-Bills game, for the Bills, I got Josh Allen at 21 points, Stephon Diggs 15 in PPR, 13 in standard. John Brown, I know he's questionable, but if he plays, 10 points PPR, 8 standard. Cole Beasley, again, 10 in PPR, 6 in standard. Devin Singletary, I got him at 13 in PPR, 11 in standard. Zach Moss, if he plays, 8 in PPR, 6 in standard. Dawson Knox, their tight end, 7 in PPR, 5 in standard. For the Titans, Ryan Tannehill, I got him at 18. A.J. Brown, 15 in PPR, 12 in standard. Khalif Raymond coming in at 12 in PPR, 10 standard. Cameron Batson coming in at 10 PPR, 8 standard. Derrick Henry, I got him at 18 in PPR, and then 17, 16, 17 in standard. Not too much of a difference. And then Jonnu, I got him coming in at 12 in PPR, 10 in standard. So. All right, guys. So that is it for this week of NFL breakdowns and previews and projection. Those of you that follow the wrestling side of our podcast, we will be on, or we'll be posting the show either later on this evening or tomorrow, recapping the draft, the 2-part draft that's been going on WWE on SmackDown last Friday, and then continuing again tonight. So look for that either later on this evening or tomorrow. So we break down the draft and where we feel like that's going to go leading up the storyline, potentially either before, during, or after WrestleMania. And until next time, as always, come with us if you want to win. And we'll see you all next week. Peace.
See you guys.